Hello, everybody, and welcome to Decoding the WSL. And I'm very pleased to say, for the first time this season, it is game week. I'm your host, Sam Biccarino, and we're going to be here with you today to talk you through the games that are coming up in game week 1. We're going to have a quick, brief overview over each one, all the major talking points, all the little changes over the summer and how they might impact this week. I have two wonderful guests with me. First up, we have one of our regulars. It's Tom Maher. Tom, how are we doing?
Finally, Sam, we're back. Finally, we've been waiting for this day, waiting for this preview day, and we've finally got some WSL football to talk about, to preview, and then review as well next week. So that's fun, isn't it? How are you doing, Sam?
Yeah, very good, thank you. Yes, I'm looking forward to getting back into the swing of it and having a full season of probably being in the swing of it. Obviously, this was, well, in fact, Decoding the WSL, I was 13 months old today. And to start with, it was just me for the first few months. So it's nice to start the season with a panel alongside myself and Tom. It is someone that's returning to Decoding the WSL. I think for your first WSL episode rather than the Euros, it's Izzy Gilligan.
Hi guys, yeah, I'm excited to get back into WSL, and it's my first full season covering the WSL, which will be great. And Euros was all well and good, but I think it's much more fun when you've got something every week to go to fill your time. So yeah, I can't wait.
I am still hanging on to the Euros a little bit, although I haven't got an England shirt on tonight. I've got my Italy shirt on because I didn't want to pick a side in terms of club teams. Because, obviously for the last season, there are 12 teams going into the WSL this season. We're going to go through each of the games. We have done a little preview, about an hour or so preview on each team in particular. There are 12 episodes that we did over the summer with a range of guests. We had an expert, or at least one expert on each pod. So go check those out in the Decoding the WSL feed, or check it on YouTube. We've got them all as videos as well. But obviously now that we're getting into the season, we're going to be coming at you with these previews and reviews every week. And this week there is an extra one as well to talk all about aerial fantasy, because that is obviously going into its first season under the rebrand. But we'll come to that later on as we're recording. You'll get it in an extra episode, listener. So let's move on to the first game of the season on Friday night. Chelsea hosting Man City. This is 7:30pm at Stamford Bridge. The first meeting of these two clubs since they did it 4 times in 13 days. That was a bit of a whirlwind towards the end of last season. They did meet 5 times last season in total, Chelsea winning 4 of them, including all 3 of the games that they hosted against Man City. Tom, how do you think this one's going to play out? Because obviously Chelsea had such a good season last season. They went unbeaten in the league, but that first defeat for Sonia Bonpastor was against Man City.
Yeah, exactly. There is something very WSL Barclays about the team that was unbeaten in the league the whole of last season, losing on the first day of the next season. I think there's some that does feel like it might be in the water. But yeah, I think if last season's anything to go by, then Chelsea are going to be just fine, really, especially at Stamford Bridge. I think those 2 wins over City at Stamford Bridge were just, well, especially the one in the Champions League, it was emphatic, wasn't it? You know, that 3-0 win. And then, to be fair, I think the win in the WSL at Stamford Bridge was a real marker laid down as well, because I think they came into that game behind City in the league, and they really kind of showed City who was boss that day. Remember that astonishing Moira Ramirez run. So, yeah, I think we're definitely going to be treated to a blockbuster for sure on the Friday Night Lights as well. Like, I'm really excited for it. I think it's a really fun way to get the season back, or to get the season started. I think both teams have looked pretty good in preseason friendly. I think it's always harder to tell with the teams that are have loads of players off at the Euros, at Copa America, AFCON. You know, it's just because they get their players back a bit later, so it's quite hard to read too much into pre-season. But, you know, the most recent games, Chelsea won 3-1 against AC Milan. Aggie Beaver-Jones got a hat-trick. And then City beat Durham 4-0 as well, with quite interesting goal scorers, Lily Murphy, Kirsten Kasparai, Viviana Miedema and Laura Coombs as well, and Risa Shimizu came off the bench too, so which is really good after an ACL injury. So yeah, I think obviously the big difference between those encounters last season is that it's another new manager who's going to be coming up against Sonny Bompastor, is Andre Jäglitz, who, I'm very intrigued to see how he sets up in this game, because it's going to be a big test, and I'm sure he would have rather not started the season away to the reigning unbeaten champions, I'd imagine.
Yeah, I think probably for those lower down clubs, Chelsea away in the first game of the season might be the best time to play them, but get it out of the way early kind of thing, if you know that you're probably not going to win it anyway. But yeah, maybe not for a Man City team that Izzy looked like. Well, it's a bit 50-50 about how they're going to be this season, because they've had quite a lot of change this summer, and they've gone from being, a pretty good side with a lot of good players to this really new system, quite a few new players coming in. We don't quite know exactly how everyone's going to fit in. Do you think they're going to sort of hit the ground running? Do you think it's going to take them a bit of time?
Yeah, so I think that teams, when they have a new manager at the start of the season, can kind of end up with a bit of a new manager bounce, which is something that I'd really like to see for City. As we saw last year, they had such a good start to the season and then had all those injuries. So I'd like to see those injured players go and have a full season this year and be able to make the impact that we know they can. The likes of Alex Greenwood and Lauren Hemp especially, I think, are going to be key for City this year. We saw them being such sort of staples in the Euros over the summer as well, and looking good. So I'm hoping that those players are able to carry City into a bit more of an exciting season this year, because they'll be disappointed having missed out on the Champions League football for this year, but possibly that will lighten their load a bit and maybe lower the risk of injuries happening again. So I don't know, it could work in their favour, and I would like to see them really kind of make an impact on that first day of the season and take it to Chelsea, especially away from home. I think they have a good away following that should be able to support them as well. So yeah, I can't wait to watch that game. I think it's going to be a brilliant contest, and I'd love to see City do something. We saw Aston Villa almost get a slight result against Chelsea on the first game of last season. So potentially this is a really good time for City to play Chelsea in their first game, and when their players have been coming and going a bit all summer, as like you said, Tom. So I think we'll see how it goes, but I'd like to see a City win, I think.
Do you think City wins likely? Can I get a score prediction from you?
I've written down what I thought. I actually put 2-2 or 3-1 to Chelsea. So I know it's not going to. I'm not saying City wins particularly likely. It's what I'd like to see, but I think 2-2 could happen. I think it could be quite an exciting, kind of fast-paced couple of goals from each side, and a really good start to the season. And leaving both teams with only a point leaves it all to play for the rest of the weekend.
Yeah, that would be a really interesting start to the season as well, to not have Chelsea at the top of the table like we were so used to seeing last season. I've written down that I think Chelsea are probably going to win it, but only by 1 or 2. I do think both teams will score in this. We've seen before that Man City quite often, even if they don't necessarily beat Chelsea, they often score against them. But yeah, I think finding their feet under a new manager might be a bit difficult for them to go straight into winning away at Chelsea, especially at Stamford Bridge. Obviously quite a big stadium, bit intimidating it could be, but yeah, I still wouldn't be surprised to see someone like Bunny Shaw on the score sheet, because that's what she does when she plays football. She normally gets a goal. But I do think Chelsea will have enough, but only to win by 1 or 2. That's my prediction. Tom?
Yeah, well, I mean, what a statement to make in your first competitive game in charge to win at the Champions. I think it's really hard to predict. I think, to be fair, just listening to Izzy there, I think 2-2 does sound pretty. The only time Chelsea drew in the league last year, it was 2-2, and obviously first game of last season, City went away to a title contender and drew 2-2 then as well. So it could well be an entertaining game. I really hope it's going to be. I think that Chelsea will have enough. I think 2-1 would be my guess.
So it looks like we're all similar sort of thing, kind of expecting a good game, expecting goals, but yeah, maybe a draw, but probably more likely Chelsea if there's going to be someone to win. Let's go on to a game that I don't think is going to be quite as close. This is Saturday's game, Arsenal against London City Lionesses. This one is at the Emirates. They have met a few times before, the previous 5 meetings, all in domestic cups, obviously, because LCL are in the WSL for the first time. Arsenal won all of those 5 by an aggregate score of 16-0, the most recent of those being last season in February. Stina and Kadina getting the goals for Arsenal. I think this is going to be a really interesting game because we know what Arsenal are like. We are all people that have been to see Arsenal a lot recently. But LCL are just this brand new team, basically. I know they've been around for a few years and, they've had a bit of investment come up, but I don't actually know the number, but it must be double figures of the number of players they brought in. It is, when I say new team, I don't just mean they're a fresh club. I mean, they probably have, most of their starting 11 is going to be new to the club.
15,
they obviously won
15.
15.
Players. Yeah,
Wow.
15. So that's almost the starting 11 and, well, almost the 5 subs off the bench it could be. Probably won't be because I think there will be some players that were there last season that will remain in their squad. We know Izzy Gilligan was the top scorer in the Women's Championship last season with 16. Kosovare Aslani was the top assister with 8, with 3 more than anyone else. Although Sophia Jacobson, her teammate, who is also still at LCL, was joint second on 5. I think LCL might struggle in this game, not just because they're new to the league and it's quite a step up and, they're playing Arsenal, who they don't have a good record against, but largely because, if nothing else, LCL have a horrendous record on the road. I was having a look at how they did last season. Yes, they won the league. They won it on the final day by beating Birmingham, so won the league by 2 points, but of the points they got, only 8 of the 30 points were on the road. So their home form was fantastic. Their away form, not so much. And going away to Arsenal, for me, on the first day of the season is probably a pretty nightmare scenario for them. They'll want to try and hit the ground running. They'll want to try and, I guess, shake up women's football, as the club tends to do. But yeah, I don't see it personally. Izzy, how about you? Because for me, it's looking like everything's in Arsenal's direction for this.
Yeah, I mean, I'd sort of agree with you to a certain extent that I do think Arsenal, obviously, the more established, and they're going to be coming off the back of a Champions League win, and they'll be wanting to perform in front of their home crowd. It'll be the first time back at the Emirates since they did that, and it looks like it's pretty much sold out. So they'll be wanting to get that big first day result and hit the ground running. I do think London City Lionesses, there might be a danger that they'll look a little bit like just 11 players being put on a pitch. I'm not sure how kind of cohesive and like a team unit they're going to look just in the first few games of the season, because obviously, as you said, 15 new players, they can't be that used to playing together. So I think it's a good time for Arsenal to play them from their perspective, because they should be able to take advantage of maybe a slightly disorganised setup. And then I do think that London City have got some impact players and some players that have the potential to cause upsets. So I think Izzy Gilligan, being new to the league, she's at the right age and the right point in her career where she'll come in and she'll play fearlessly and be able to make an impact, I reckon. And you've got some former Arsenal players as well, in Taya Goldie and Fred Godfrey recently, and then Danielle van der Donk, Nikita Paris, that, there's a few of them that have been there that will know the inside information on how Arsenal play. So I think it's a really interesting dynamic, and I'm going to be there. I can't wait for it. I can't wait to see what London City bring and how they play, because there's not a lot to go on. But we saw them lose to Lyon recently in pre-season, so I think that was quite a good marker of how they'll play against kind of these top established sides. So yeah, I'd say an Arsenal win.
Scoreline?
2-1. I have London City to score a goal, I think.
That is...
First day.
Yeah, I don't mind that. That's a lot closer than I think what it's going to be. But yeah, good to see nonetheless. Tom, how about you? How do you think this one's going to go?
Yeah, it's interesting. I maybe have a bit more hope for London City, as far as I think there's a degree of them being a bit of an unknown quantity with the amount of signings they've made. And I think when Arsenal struggled last season, I'm thinking in particular of that Liverpool game where Amber Whiteley came in and Renee Slegers wasn't really 100% sure what kind of style she was going to come out with. And I think potentially that unpredictability gives them a bit of an opportunity. And I also think maybe with the away records too, it kind of there's probably a difference between going away to kind of a bit of an unfashionable ground in the Championship as opposed to going away to sit in front of 60,000 at the Emirates. I think that can galvanise a team, that can make a team excited. And a lot of the players that they've signed are players who are familiar with that type of environment, like Danielle van der Donk, like Nikita Paris, who can kind of bring the rest of the team along with them. And obviously we know Kosovare Aslani and Saki Kumagai are very familiar with that as well. So I think that there's some positives to be had for London City. I think oddly enough, I feel like the longer they can keep it at 0-0, a little bit like the Champions League final with Barcelona, the way Arsenal came up against Barcelona, the longer they can just frustrate Arsenal and maybe get the crowd a little bit itchy and thinking about that defeat to Liverpool a few years ago. Like, I think if you're London City, that should be the way that you approach it. Obviously, it'd be more exciting if they didn't approach it that way, but, the longer you can keep it scoreless, the more you kind of build up that tension and that pressure in the stadium. And less so under Sleggers, but we have seen like difficulties for Arsenal teams in the past when that's happened. And now, having said all that, I think Arsenal are going to win. And I think that maybe London City will give a bit of that, like show us a little bit about what they're about, and then they might concede and it might come tumbling down a little bit, because we've seen that with Arsenal as well in the last few seasons, where a team like keeps them out and then they score one, then another, then another, then another. It's like this incredible mentality that they can have. So I'm going to go 4-0 to Arsenal, but I think London City Lionesses are going to make them sweat a little bit in the early stages, perhaps.
Yeah, I've gone 3-0 on mine. Sorry. 3-0, but I think I wouldn't be surprised to see London City Lionesses grab a goal, because I just think that Arsenal probably won't need to get into top gear to beat them, but I think that they'll might leave the door open at some point. I know that obviously Leah Williamson's not around, and I'm not overly confident in Catley and Moy as a centre-back partnership. I know that they played together in the friendly against Spurs, and I watched a little bit of that and didn't see some of the best defending. So LCL have the sort of players that can capitalise on that. So, but I wouldn't be surprised to see them get a goal. I'd be surprised to see them get two or more, and I think Arsenal will probably score a few. So I've gone 3-0. Before we move on from LCL more than Arsenal, I know, Izzy, you spent a bit of time with Freya Godfrey recently, didn't you, for the Halfway Line? I won't ruin it, because listener, go and have a read of it rather than just listen to it here. But can you give us like a little snippet of some of the insights you got that day?
Yeah, it was really, really great to go and speak to her. She's really nice to interview, came across really well, and she is really ready to go back and face Arsenal, her former club that she's kind of grown up at, on the first day. I think that they're really excited about announcing themselves on the biggest stage in the WSL, is going to play at the Emirates in front of that many people. And yeah, she said that they're ready to cause an upset. That was a direct quote from her. So yeah, if you go and read the article, there's lots of nice things that she said about players in the London City team who she's excited to play against, and their ambitions going forward. So yeah, it was a good chat I had with her.
Yeah, because you can find it on, is it the halfwayline.com?
Yes, it is. Went out today.
Yeah, there we go. There we go. Perfect timing. Although it might be yesterday by the time you're listening to this, listener. But it's Monday the 1st September at the moment, but I don't think I'm going to quite get the episode out tonight. Let's move on to Sunday's games. I think those two games that we've covered so far are probably going to have the sort of most press on them, the biggest talking points, but there are obviously other games all at 12 p.m. on Sunday. Let's start with the one that I think is probably going to be the hardest game to call this weekend. I think it's going to be the closest game, which is Brighton against Villa down in Crawley at the Broadfield Stadium. This fixture last season, when Brighton hosted Villa, saw a 4-2 Brighton win with a red card for both sides. Poppy Pattinson and Paul Tomas getting a red card each. Brighton have only beaten Villa in one of their last 6 WSL meetings, which sort of surprised me, because I don't really see them as a team. I don't see Villa as a team that are particularly better than Brighton. So to only get one win against them in the last 6, I think sort of showed that Villa kind of have their number a little bit, at least to sort of keep it to a draw, if not anything else. But I think both teams have really improved their squad over the summer. So I don't really know exactly what to expect from either side. They're both building on sort of the end of last season and keeping the same manager, keeping a lot of the same squad. But yeah, like I say, bringing in a few players to improve it. So that's why I kind of think this is the hardest to call. I've gone for Brighton 2-1. But to be honest, it could go either way. I'm expecting both teams to score. And at the moment, I'm avoiding having any Brighton or Villa players in my squad because I just don't know who to back, basically. Tom, you're normally someone that's significantly better at knowing who to pick in fantasy. So I'll come to you first. How do you think this game's going to go? How do we think how do you think it's going to play out?
I wouldn't say that, Sam, at all. I must say, if you looked at my Euros team, you'd probably say differently. Yeah, I covered that game at Broadfields last season. It was one of my favourite games because it was just it just made no sense at all. It was just all over the place. It was so hard to make any sense of it afterwards. But yeah, it was so much fun though. It's just like one of those games that you just love watching. That you just it's just why we love this league, really.
Once the neutral.
Yeah, exactly. I think that this game might give us a few indications because for me, outside of the top four, I think these are two strongest candidates for fifth place. I think that I really like Aston Villa, the way they finished last season, 5 wins out of 5, including a victory against Brighton. I think that was that the last game of the last season, did you say, Sam? That they beat Brighton in. So, if they can carry any kind of semblance of that form into this season, then that'll be enough to get fifth if you keep on playing like that. I think, like you mentioned, Sam, I think both sides have made really good signings. I think Brighton have probably had one of the best windows in terms of the personnel they've brought in. Like Ndosia in goal is a huge upgrade, and Manuel Venegas is a fantastic player. And as you'll know a little bit more about this, but obviously Michel Adjumang and Rosa Kafaji coming in, 2 brilliant signings, really good. And I think with Villa, obviously they've got Ellie Roebuck, so another new goalkeeper. Be interesting to see how she does. And yeah, actually, just thinking back to last season, I remember that game where, obviously, what Izzy mentioned earlier, that Chelsea won 1-0. Didn't Sabrina D'Angelo nearly score an equaliser at the last second?
Yeah,
maybe they'll bring her. She can come on to Ellie Roebuck and get that last-minute winner for Aston Villa this weekend. But yeah, I think it's going to be really tight. I think maybe an early season draw will probably. I don't think either side will want to lose their first game, so I'd probably go with the draw, I think.
Yeah, fair enough. I think that I know neither side will want to lose, but I just don't think either side are going to be good enough to keep a clean sheet in this game. I think Brighton have got a really high quality sort of set of defenders and obviously a goalkeeper, but they're all changed. They lost so many of their defenders last season, obviously like Bergsman and Pattinson and Doris Dottir. They've all left the club. And they've changed their goalkeeper, and I just think they're not going to be settled enough to keep a clean sheet in their first game. But at the same time, I think their attack is good enough, with, like you mentioned, Kafaji and Adjumang, people like that, to still manage to get on the score sheet, even though Ellie Roebuck is obviously a fantastic goalkeeper and I think quite an upgrade for Villa this season. Lynn Wilms is someone else for Villa who I think could be a real star this season. I mentioned it in the Villa preview, but I was doing some analysis on FBref, and they have like a similar players thing. And it was people like Lucy Bronze, Esme Brute, and Katie McCabe were similar players, which is a really good cohort of people to be compared to, I think. So she might not be someone that's grabbing the headlines at the moment, but I wouldn't be surprised to see Lynn Wilms having a fantastic season at Villa. I've gone 2-1 in this game. Izzy, how about you? How do you think this game's going to go?
Yeah, I've gone 2-1 to Brighton as well. I just think, as both of you said, I think it's going to be very close. I've given it to Brighton just because they're at home, and I think that might just give them a slight edge. I do think I really enjoyed watching Brighton last season. I thought they were a really exciting team, and whenever they had a match against the Big Four, I would be excited to think actually they could get a draw or get a win here. They were quite unpredictable and quite a difficult opponent to win against. They made themselves difficult to beat, and I think that they're going to want to carry on doing that this season. But then, as you said, of course, Villa, really positive end of the season, having looked like they might be in the relegation battle for a couple of weeks. So I've said Brighton. I think that, if it comes down to it, maybe it's 1-1 in the kind of late minutes of the game. Brighton have got Michelle Adjumang to come on, and we've seen her this summer, and she'll be wanting to prove herself in her second season on loan there. So I'd be excited, and I wouldn't put it past her to get a goal in there to save it for Brighton in the last minute. But so I've gone for a 2-1 Brighton.
Yeah, I think everyone, other than a Villa fan, everyone would like to see that as well. Everyone likes Michelle Adjumang. We all want to see her do well, especially if that then does mean it's 2-1 to Brighton and we've all got it right. Let's move on to the I think the biggest derby of the weekend. Liverpool hosting Everton at Anfield. This fixture last season was the penultimate game of the season. Liverpool 0, Everton 2, which was very much sort of in keeping with how Everton have been when they've gone to Liverpool. In fact, they've won their last 4 WSL trips to Liverpool, keeping a clean sheet in every game. Like I mentioned, it was 2-0 to Everton last time, but Liverpool really dominated the game. They had 62% possession. They had 27 shots to 6. Olivia Smith on her own got more shots than Everton. And Liverpool had 1.3 XG more than Everton. So, pardon me. A game that really went against the run of play, but I think that happened a few times to Everton last season, which really shows a bit of their resolve and their sort of clinicality in front of goal. This is one that my head is just saying that Everton have a really good record against Liverpool away. They've had a really good transfer window. And I think they are probably one of, if not the most improved team on last season compared to where they were, compared to where they are now. But I do just think Liverpool are going to have something in them that's going to really want to put. Liverpool haven't had a bad transfer window. I think they will want to try and push on a bit. They've obviously got a new manager in Gareth Taylor. So I wouldn't be surprised to see a Liverpool win, but I think it's going to be a really close game. I've gone 1-0 Everton. I've stuck with my head and said, you know what, this makes sense. This is, I think, what actually will happen. But yeah, similar to the last one, I think it's such a hard game to call. Izzy, I'll come to you first on this one. How do we think this is going to go? Because it's two teams that I think, like I mentioned, have improved since last season, but are still kind of that unknown quantity. We don't really know where they're going to be in that sort of mid-table pack.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think that mid-table is really difficult to kind of decipher because, week in, week out, it seems to change quite a lot depending on oppositions, and they pull out some big upsets or some surprise losses. So a match like this between these two sides is difficult to call. But I've gone for an Everton win. I really, really like what they've done in the transfer window, and I like what the club is trying to build and what Brian Sorensen's trying to build. I think that there's clearly a lot of investment in that women's team now, and they're putting the money where their mouth is. They're now going to be playing at Goodison Park, obviously this one at Anfield, but I just think that they're looking quite fresh and kind of exciting for the new season. So I look forward to seeing what they can do this weekend against Liverpool. I think Liverpool without Olivia Smith will be a new look that we're going to have to get used to. I think they're going to have to get used to that as well, because obviously such a key player last season. They've obviously got some good players that have remained there, but I do have Everton to win this. I've got it at 2-0 actually, so to a repeat of the score of the last fixture at Anfield. So we'll see. But what a perfect day, what a perfect place for them to start the season at Anfield with that big derby, and hopefully get the fans involved, and great way to kick off hopefully a brilliant season.
Yeah, I do really like this games at Anfield, because obviously Liverpool tend to play most of their games at St Helens Stadium, the Totally Wicked Stadium. I think it's still called that. But yeah, for those bigger games to still be able to put it at Anfield, I think is really good. And I don't know what the ticket sales are looking like, but hopefully it will be a busy stadium. Tom, obviously you were doing the Everton preview with me, and we spoke quite a lot about how their transfer window has gone and how much they've improved. How do you think this game's going to go?
Yeah, I previewed both of these teams in quite a lot of detail, to be fair. I don't know, sometimes it just works out where you end up previewing some teams like that in a lot of detail. And I must say, I'm really worried for Liverpool this season. I think they've obviously lost their captain. They've retired Niamh Fahey. Their vice captain's gone to Arsenal, Taylor Hines. Their best player, the PFA Young Player of the Year, Olivia Smith's gone to Arsenal as well. Obviously, they received £1 million for that transaction, and we just haven't seen that in the transfer window. That's not been reinvested into the side. They've made one permanent transfer since Olivia Smith was sold. The others were picked up on freeze. That was Sam Kerr from Bayern Munich. And I think I'm worried for them, because I think that it's a big change in tactical philosophy, bringing in Gareth Taylor, who's a Citigroup manager. He is going to want to play an attacking brand of football, a free-flowing brand of football that they're not used to the last couple of seasons, for more than the last couple of seasons, all the time under Matt Beard. They've played a defensive, counter-attacking style, very solid. And the same with Amber Whiteley at the end of last season. There was no departure from that, really. And I think the results in pre-season have shown that they're struggling to adapt to that. They lost 5-1 to Aston Villa. They've lost 1-0 to Durham. They've drawn 2-2 with Manchester United, which obviously is a good result. But even in that game, you could see the players weren't really 100% comfortable with the way they were playing. Like for United's first goal, their new goalkeeper, Liverpool's new goalkeeper, Rafael Borgoff, she takes the ball under pressure and accidentally plays it straight to Simi Awujo, plays it right past her. And, that to me is a player who's not comfortable with the style of play, like getting the ball down and playing it. Maybe that's harsh, it is pre-season, you make mistakes, and then, they followed that result, which seemed like it was a little bit more of a positive result with a 3-0 defeat to West Ham. And most recently they beat Birmingham 1-0 at St Andrews. And those results don't inspire confidence. I know that pre-season you can't base a whole season on pre-season, but we're basing it on the clues we have at the moment, I suppose. And I'm just quite disappointed that they haven't spent more money. I think they haven't reinvested into the side. Like so many Liverpool fans love the fact that when they sold Coutinho, they invested into buying Van Dijk and Alisson, who ushered in this golden era for Liverpool's men's side. Why don't we see that on the women's side? Like, why? I haven't heard a good reason why we haven't seen that yet. So I honestly, I feel like I'm getting a bit emotional because like Liverpool have such a good fan base and there's so much to tap into there. And I just feel like even Gareth Taylor, as much as like potential faults that he has over his player management, like that's an ambitious appointment as far as the way that he wants to play on the pitch. Back him, like give him the opportunity to play with players to buy players who are going to suit that style. And they do have some players who are going to suit that style, but I'm not sure about them. I think Everton might give them a bit of a hiding, to be honest. Everton had a really good game against Juventus, the Italian champions, on the weekend. They only lost 3-2, and they've had a good pre-season in Denmark. I think Everton are going to win this one 3-0 is my prediction. But I'm sure I'm ready to be proven wrong and made look like a complete fool after all of that. But yeah, I think Everton are going to win that.
Or my fantasy team is hoping that you are right, because I've definitely got more Everton players than Liverpool in there. Let's move on to Man United against Leicester. This one's obviously also at midday on Sunday. This one's at LSV. Last season, Manchester United beat Leicester 2-0 home and away. And Leicester have never beaten United in a league game. The only ever win they had against them was in the League Cup on penalties, and that was back in December 2021. So Man United is not a happy hunting ground for Leicester City, and Izzy, haven't had the best summer, and they've obviously now not got a manager. Could this be a bit of a thrashing?
Yeah, I think so. I just think what a weird time to sack the manager, in right before the start of the season, when anyone that they do get in, or whoever's interim in charge, hasn't got enough time to really bring in any players or to adjust it to the style of play that they want to see. I just think that Leicester this season will just be trying to hang on in the WSL. I don't think this is going to be a particularly positive season for them. They've lost quite a few key players as well, and I think they've just got to try and stabilise themselves and try and hang on in there. But I just don't see it being a brilliant year for them unless they can really turn it around and bring someone good in who can get that team together. Whereas Manchester United, I think, have had a great window. They've already had a few matches this season in the Champions League. We've seen them get some wins over some European sides. So I do think that they'll be already in the flow of things, wanting to carry on their winning streak, already playing together as a unit. And so I definitely fancy them to win this game, which I think most people will have them down as winners. What did I put for my score prediction? I put 3-0 to Manchester United. I just think I can't see Leicester getting on the score sheet, and I can't see them making an impact against this Manchester United team, who to me look cohesive, and they look like they've really overcome the hardships and difficulties that they've had in the previous seasons. Whether that's all still going on behind the scenes, I don't know. But the team as a unit just look like they really enjoy playing together and they play together well. So I think we'll see that on Saturday as they open their WSL season.
Yeah, I mean, they obviously had a good... Man United has obviously had a good end to last season, finishing third, and have really gone well in the Champions League qualifiers so far, winning both of their games that they played. Elizabeth Turlin getting 4 goals in those 2 games as well is not going to be something that Leicester fans will want to see coming into this, because, I think Man United are going to be top of the league come Sunday night. I think I've put this one down as a 4-0, but to be honest, 3-4, 5-0, something in that ballpark, I wouldn't be surprised to see it. Leicester... I mean, I like this to try and be a bit of a family show, or family-friendly show anyway, so try not to swear, but I think it's apt to say that Leicester at the moment is just an absolute shit show. It is. They've sacked their manager, despite the fact, well, probably to try and get Matt Beard in. Matt Beard is now on 3 months of gardening leave that Burnley have put him on, so even if he does end up becoming the Leicester manager, it's not going to happen until almost Christmas. So they've got to go nearly half the season without a manager. We don't know who's going to be the interim and what's going to happen there. They've lost so many players, and important players as well. People like Sophie Howard and like players that played a lot for them last season have moved on. There's talk of Ruby Mace moving on, who I think is probably their best player. And Manchester United are maybe even looking better than they were last season. So I'm flooding my fantasy team with Man United players. I've taken all Leicester players out. I did have 2 in at one point, no longer. This is not going to be a close one, unfortunately. But Tom, how about you?
Yeah, I echo both of your sentiments. I think that it's going to be a really long afternoon for Leicester. I think they've made a couple of good signings. It sounds like, from what I can garner, what I've read, the articles that I've read about it, that Amandine Mikel and the Leicester board had a disagreement about their transfer policy, or the policy that how they worked in the window. What a terrible time to let your manager go 11 days before the first match. I think it was 11 days. But I think, I mean, I would have been backing United anyway, to be honest, in this game, even if they still had Mikel in charge. But I think they might be a bit galvanised by the fact that, nobody expects them to get anything. I think it might be 2-0 to United, I'd say. But hopefully we'll see a bit of spirit from them. So.
And I can't wait to actually have us all be wrong and Leicester come out the blocks firing, and or maybe they'll just sit out and get a grind out of 1-0 like they did a few times last season. But we'll have to wait and see on that one. It'll be it could be first on the Women's Football Show with the amount of goals that go in. Just who knows which team it's going to be for. Finally, it is I hasten to call it a London derby, but I guess it is. Spurs against West Ham, also midday on Sunday, this one at the BetRight Stadium, aka Leyton Orient. This fixture last season, Spurs won 2-1. It was a really close game. Camilla Sayers' own goal in 90+2 minute was the decider. I don't think that was the reason. She's been loaned out now by West Ham, but who knows. Spurs haven't kept a clean sheet in their last 9 meetings with West Ham, which is going to be a bit of a worry for them. They obviously didn't end last season very well. They had a couple of good results near the start. We think of that 4-0 against Palace, but it wasn't a good season for Spurs. They've obviously got a new manager in, and it's looking pretty good in pre-season. They've beaten Arsenal, and I think was it West Ham they played recently they beat? Who was the other team they played? No, Arsenal played West Ham. Was it Southampton they beat?
Yeah, Southampton.
So it's looking like things are going in the right direction for Spurs, which I think is really important, because at the start of the pre-season, before most of the transfers have been made, I was thinking it's probably going to be one of Spurs and Leicester that are going to be that bottom spot. And now I think Spurs they're sort of impressing me quite a bit, and they're a bit higher in my estimations. And I actually think they're going to beat West Ham in this game. I think West Ham personally, I think they finished last season a bit overrated. I think everyone thinks they're amazing because Vivasai got so many goals and assists, because Shakira Martinez hit the ground running. But I think it's also worth noting that West Ham only finished 3 points above Leicester, and Shakira Martinez scored 40% of her goals against Crystal Palace in a game that was 7-0. So they would have won anyway. So I think West Ham are a bit overhyped, and I think Spurs, in this new system under Martin Ho, with a manager that's coming in trying to prove a point that he's not just that guy that was an assistant manager at Man United at that time, that he's actually a good manager in his own right. I think Spurs are going to be bouncing back from a quite disappointing 24-25, and I think this is going to be a prime game for them to get 3 points on the board early on, and I'm going to go for a 2-1 Spurs win, which, yeah, Jacob is going to be thrilled about that, even though he's not on this pod. He's not. If he doesn't listen to this pod, he won't believe me that I'm actually backing Spurs, but no, I am for this one. Izzy, how about you? Because this is one that I think last season I would have gone the other way, but yeah, could still go either way, I guess.
Well, potentially I've fallen victim to the West Ham overhyped train, but I do think, just from being at the match against Arsenal the other day, the pre-season game, I do like the way they play. They managed to hold Arsenal off for over half of the game, and they pretty good at making themselves a nuisance in the box, good at clearing the balls, and a quite strong looking back line. I'm not sure about the goalkeeper. I think that she looked a bit unsure, but potentially just needs to keep going after pre-season into the league, and might settle in a bit more into the regular games. But I've gone for a 2-2 draw, because I think that this is a difficult one to call, and I think that both sides maybe not the best at keeping clean sheets, but also able to score goals, as we saw with Spurs against Arsenal as well. They've both played Arsenal recently in pre-season, so and I've been impressed with definitely different elements of each of them. I think that I don't know whether Shakira Martinez is going to be fit for this weekend, because she missed out with injury last week in the pre-season match. So that'll be interesting to find out, because I think she will be quite key in a match like this. But West Ham have got other players like Vivian Assayi, and they've made some good signings as well over the window that could also make an impact. So yeah, I think we're going to see a draw. That's what I'm going for. 2-2.
2-2, I like it. Martinez is, last I saw, she was a bit touch and go. They're not 100% sure if she's going to be available this week or not. I know for Spurs' sake, they'll probably be hoping she's not, because she is, or was, so good last season. I know I did say that she stat padded a bit against Palace, but she is pretty good. I will give that to her. Still, even without that, she's still got 6 goals in half a season, which is not too shabby. Tom, how about you? Because I know West Ham is sort of your second home, isn't it?
Yeah, I think West Ham live in a really weird place in a lot of people's minds, where they're like perennially either overrated or underrated. Like they're never rated. They're always one or the other, I think, obviously loved watching them play last year. I think they really excel when they're at home, not when they're away, to be fair. That's when they really struggle. They obviously, I think the Crystal Palace game was the only away game that they won in the league last year. Which obviously isn't brilliant, but I did cover them in that game when they played Tottenham, and they were really unlucky to lose that game. It was a kind of a freakish own goal in the very last few minutes, and I don't think they'd won a game all season at that point in the league. And but I thought they were really good in that game, and I remember speaking to Rhiannon Skinner about the game afterwards, and she was just so kind of strong-headed and confident, like that. We did the essentials right today. Like, it didn't go our way, but we played the way that I wanted us to play. And if we keep on playing like that, the results will come. And then sure enough, the next weekend they beat Leicester 1-0, got their first win of the season. So I have a lot of time and respect for Rhiannon Skinner as a manager. I could see this being a draw, but I think it's a little bit similar to London City, Tottenham. Like, I know that London City obviously have the same manager they had last season, but Tottenham have a bit of that unpredictability about them with Martin Ho. Like, Leanne Skinner won't have managed against Martin Ho before directly head coach to head coach, so that gives it a bit of an interesting vibe as to how it might pan out. I think players like Martinez are so important for West Ham in this game. I honestly think if Martinez starts and she's fit, West Ham probably win, and if she doesn't, they probably lose. That's the kind of player that she is. Like, I think she is a fixture-proof player as far as fantasy is concerned. Like, I would be confident with her starting against anyone in the league that she'd have a chance of scoring. Whereas I'm not sure I'd say that about any other player outside of the top 4. So yeah, I'm gonna be a bit of a cheat and say that if she plays, West Ham win or draw, and if she doesn't play, they lose or draw.
So many splinters in your arse from that answer, sitting on the fence. But thank you very much anyway. Yeah, so they're the 6 games coming up this weekend to kick off the WSL season, to kick off game week 1. And if we have got it right, there's going to be a lot of goals, not a lot of clean sheets, but a lot of entertainment nonetheless. And talking of entertainment, well, it's the most entertainment part of the show. It's time for a bit of Know Your Stat. So if you're new this season, I'll give you a quick rundown. Know Your Stat is basically a game of categories. Izzy and Tom are going to be going against each other. I'm going to give them a category. They're going to give me players that fit into that category. And whoever can give the most answers wins. You need to give, and if you stall or if you give an incorrect answer or if you repeat an answer, you are out. So if you haven't already, I'd recommend getting your pen and paper out. And if you want to play along at home, obviously, please feel free. We've got 3 rounds. Izzy, as you are, well, I guess more of the challenger anyway this week, you'll be going first in the first round. I will say as well that we had a little chat off mic about where everyone is in the standings. So in the overall standings all time, Izzy is currently 10th, but if she wins today, she will move up to 5th. Tom is currently first, but he's won the same number of matches as Jacob, has the same win percentage, and has won more rounds. So that does mean that if Izzy wins today, Tom will drop below Jacob.
The pressure on here. The pressure on.
So Izzy, you've got Jacob backing you on as well as Tom in this one. You're going to go first in the first round. And as we're going into game week 1, I thought it would only be apt to have a look back at game week 1 from last year. And I would like you to tell me any of the 16 players that scored in last year's game week 1. I will say as well that if you get all 16 players between you, whichever one of you has the players that scored the most goals will take the round.
Okay. So do you want me to just, shall I kick it off?
Izzy to start.
Viv Miedema.
Viv Miedema, yep, she scored away at Arsenal.
Kiko Seke.
Kiko Seke with first game of the season and the first hat-trick of the season.
I'm completely having to really look back here. Beth Mead.
Yeah, Beth Mead also scored in that game at the Emirates.
Frida Manum.
Frida Manum did as well.
I wasn't working in football at this point. Does it count? I don't actually know. Who scored for Chelsea that one goal? I couldn't see it in my head. Rita Canared?
That is correct. She did score in that 1-0 victory.
Oh. I can't remember any other fixtures from that opening day now. Oh, no, I do remember, actually. Hayley Rasso.
Hayley Rasso did score. That was in Spurs winning against Crystal Palace.
Oh, tricky. I can't remember what any of the actual matchups were, even apart from the 2 that I've kind of covered. I'm trying to think who scored the second City goal.
You have to rush you for an answer.
Yeah, I know. I'm going to take a stab in the dark. Was it Lauren Hemp?
It was not Lauren Hemp, unfortunately. So that means if Tom can give me a correct answer here, he will take the round.
I've been racking my brain trying to think of that second City goal scorer as well, to be fair. I think I know who it is, but I'm not as confident. So if I get it wrong, it goes back round, doesn't it? So I won't say who I think it is if I'm not going to guess it. I'm going to go for I'm going to go for Jess Naz.
Jess Naz is a correct answer. She did score.
Was it Jess Park
Spurs against Palace? Who did you say, sorry?
Was it Jess Park who scored the other goal?
Jess Park scored an absolute screamer.
Yeah.
From outside the box. And would have been a correct answer anyway, but Tom takes round 1. The players that you could have had, Man United won 3-0. The goal scorers were Jaisley Galton and Grace Clinton. You got Kika Seke for Brighton, but Frank Kirby got a penalty as well. Obviously, Jess Park, like we mentioned. The other two scorers for Spurs were Drew Spence and Olga Atanen. And then Leicester and Liverpool saw a 1-1 draw with Roman Haug and Jutta Rantala getting the goals. So Tom takes round one. Round two, I thought, as I knew who was going to be on the pod today, and it's two people that cover Arsenal quite a lot, I thought I would do an Arsenal-based one. Obviously, they're hosting London City Lionesses at the weekend. I would like you to tell me the 22 players that started the game last time Arsenal and London City Lionesses played each other, which was back in February. I could tell you Arsenal won 2-0. This one's going to be Tom to go first.
I'm going to start with Laia Cadena.
Laia Cadena did start at centre-back.
Daphne Van Domselaar.
Daphne Van Domselaar is unfortunately, is he an incorrect answer?
Oh, God. Straight in there. I thought
as it was a cup game, there must have been a bit of rotation. Manu Zinsberger started the game, so that means Tom takes the round and Tom takes the match.
Oh my gosh.
It was so niche from last season. I was so ready for that round as well. I just thought I'll just get the goalkeeper sorted.
I literally just remembered that Cadena scored. I was basically all at sea after that. That's like all
I had my London City players written down. I just thought, Van Domselaar. I just forgot Martin Zinsberger.
She was such a staple.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh well, embarrassing.
I mean, Tom, you mentioned Laia Cadena scored. She did. The other goal scorer in that game, Stina, was not a correct answer because she came off the bench. I'll go through very quickly the two lineups. It was Manu Zinsberger in goal for Arsenal, Katie Reid, Lotte Moy, Katie McCabe, Cooney Cross, Jenna Nyswanger, which was a rarely seen Jenna Nyswanger, Caitlin Ford, Frida Marnham, Mariona and Alessia Russo. And then for LCL, it was Emily Orman in goal, Campbell, Brom and Goldie as a back three, Adenike, Kamaji, Rodar, Neville across the midfield, Jakobsen and Aslani behind Izzy Goodwin. So we'll play round three anyway. See if Tom can get a full house, or if not, if Izzy can get a bit of pride back. This one, obviously, we are the podcast for the stats and facts. This one is a bit more statty. I would like you to tell me any player that last season in the WSL had an on-pitch goal difference of at least 20. So on-pitch goal difference means the number of goals that their team scored minus the number of goals their team conceded while that player was on the pitch. So if they've been subbed off or if they haven't come off the bench and their team scores or concedes, it doesn't count towards it. So any player that had an on-pitch goal difference only player that had an on-pitch goal difference of at least 20, there are 32 correct answers, and we're going to start with Izzy.
Mariona Cardente.
She is a correct answer, plus 28.
Bad.
Johanna Ritten Canaries.
She just about is a correct answer, plus 23.
Alessia Russo.
Alessia Russo is plus 33. Fourth best in the league.
Wow.
Caitlin Ford.
Caitlin Ford was plus 27.
Leah Williamson.
Leah Williamson was third in the league, plus 34.
Steph Catley.
Steph Catley was plus 33, correct.
Katie McCabe.
Katie McCabe plus 30. Yeah, you're rattling through these.
Guess who? Emily Fox.
Emily Fox plus 32, correct.
Lucy Bronze.
Lucy Bronze is plus 28.
Daphne Van Domselaar.
DVD plus 29, correct answer.
Hannah Hampton, sticking to the
Hannah
theme.
Hampton was the league's best, plus 43.
Wow. Fallon Tullis-Joyce.
Fallon Tullis-Joyce plus 25, correct. I think that's your first non-Chelsea and Arsenal player.
Ella Toone.
Ella Toone is unfortunately an incorrect answer. She had a goal difference of plus 17.
Oh, okay.
Not far off. Izzy, as you started, Tom does need to give me a correct answer to take the round.
Oh.
I think Tom thought he'd won it there. You weren't expecting me to ask you another one.
Grace Clinton.
Grace Clinton had a goal difference of plus 20.
Oh,
So it is just about a correct answer. And
good.
Tom does take the round. It's 3-0, Tom. Well done.
I like that last one. I felt better in that.
Yeah, that was a great question, Sam.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, and you did really well at it as well, 13 of the 32 players. But yeah, Elatoon you'd think would be a relatively safe bet. You know, Man United did do quite well last season, but no.
Yeah.
I'll go through the players that you could have had. Aggie Beaver-Jones, Albert Fagino, Beth Mead, Dominic Janssen, Elizabeth Turland, Erin Cuthbert, Frida Marnham, Guru Wrighton, Cara Cooney-Cross, Leah Galton, Leah Valti, Maya Letitia, Mara Ramirez, Millie Bright, who was joint first with Hannah Hampton on plus 43, Millie Turner, Natalie Bjorn, Sondy Baltimore, Sjurka Nuskin, and another one of the only two people that weren't from United, Chelsea or Arsenal, Yui Hasegawa. But very well done. 13 correct answers. But Tom, that's another win for you. And you become the first person to win 6 matches of Know Your Stat, which I'm sure is one of your greatest ever accolades.
Undoubtedly. Good game, Izzy.
Yeah, well done. I'm ashamed of myself about the Daphne Van Domselaar, but
Oh my gosh, no.
respect to Zinsberger always, but yeah, it's a shame.
I mean, Van Domselaar was such a staple last season. You wouldn't really think about. It's almost like you say that just so it goes back to Tom and you get more thinking time. But
yeah, I remember watching that one on a dodgy YouTube stream. It was one of those blurry. So maybe
like any YouTube stream of the WSL game.
Yeah.
To be fair, there wasn't a huge amount of time spent at that end of the pitch as well.
Yeah,
not
true.
a busy day for Zinsberger.
But no, that is a win for Tom. Well done. Kickstart the 25-26 season with a win. I will mention as well, we spoke a little bit about Aerial Fantasy throughout there as well, the sort of rebranded Fantasy WSL. We are going to be doing a fantasy specific episode. We're about to record it straight after this, but it will be with you in your feeds probably on Wednesday. So do make sure to check that out if you haven't quite made your team yet, or just wondering about who you might want to put in, and especially if you maybe don't know that much about the other teams in the league outside the top 4, which I know a lot of people are sort of in that boat. Hopefully you might get some good picks from us. We do have a Decoding the WSL verified league again this season, which is great. So if you download the app, make your team, go to the league section and input the code stats and facts, you'll come and join us. I know we had about 200 and something people last year. We're going to see if we can get that even higher this year. And there is going to be a prize for the number 1 player this season. At the end of the season, whoever wins the Decoding the WSL League will get either 2 tickets to a game of their choice the following season or a WSL shirt of their choice. So something to play for this season. Do come and join. And whoever is the top scorer each week will get a shout out on the pod as well. For now, though, that is the end of this episode. Thank you very much, Izzy, and thank you very much, Tom, for joining us. And thank you, listener, of course, for tuning in to Decoding the WSL. As I mentioned earlier, we do have a sort of dedicated podcast for each of the 12 teams that we recorded throughout the month of August. Go and check those out, especially if there's a particular team in there that you're interested in. But they're all available on Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. All the videos are on YouTube. You can go and check those out. The other thing I want to mention is that we are now on Patreon as well. You can become a friend of the pod for £3 a month, and the money that we receive all goes towards producing the podcast. In future, there will be extra benefits as well that you'll receive for being a friend of the pod, and you can head to patreon.com and just search for Decoding the WSL. I will tell you as well, there is an iPhone app for it, but if you do it through the app, it costs you more money, and we don't get any more. So go to the website. But yeah, other than that, thank you very much, Tom. Thank you, Izzy, for joining, and thank you, listener, and we will see you at the next one.